Yeah, my name is Mario Bueno. I'm currently 38 years old. Served 19 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections from the age of 16. As a youth, I experienced the broken home. That's common to most of this demographic. I experienced parents that resolve conflict through aggression and violence. I witnessed it as a youth. I witnessed a separation that was harsh. By 11, 12, I was witnessing my family members use hard narcotics, substance abuse, a lot of violence, a lot of aggression. I began to socialize with my older sister's boyfriends, that crowd that was 3 years older than me. So I began to sell drugs. By age 13, 14, by 15, I was robbing drug dealers, robbing customers. By 16, unfortunately, I took Samuel's life during the commission of an armed robbery, during a drug deal. He was 26 years old. I served about 387 days in solitary as I fought a first-degree murder charge, an armed robbery, felony murder. Convicted of second-degree murder, sentenced to 22 to 40 years. I served 19 years. Could you give me some napkins or something? I'm sweating. Appreciate it. The first 10 years were turbulent at best. 3 years in solitary before the age of 23. A lot of aggression, a lot of violence to resolve conflict. It's the prison, adult male prison system is an environment that it's like the streets, but it's heightened. You resolve conflict through violence and aggression. As a youth, as a 16-year-old, 22, 23, you're battling internal kind of challenges, discovery of who you are, self-image, self-efficacy. And then you're dealing with the external environment that's predatory in nature, whether it's monetary, sexual. And so as a juvenile lifer, you had to raise the level of aggression a couple notches. And unfortunately, after so many years, it becomes unconscious. You can't lose a fight. You just can't lose a fight in prison, whether it's verbal or it becomes physical. You just can't. And so what is created is, number one, a sense of, what's created is, number one, is a sense of disconnectedness to the world around you. Unfortunately, there came a point where I lost a sense of my humanity, I think. But as I was nurtured, the difference between me and a lot of individuals who served, I was in 16 different prisons, kicked out of 10 of them. The difference is I was nurtured during those intense moments, those times of pressure, those times of solitary. I was given great works, writings, autobiography of Nelson Mandela, Nietzsche, Dwayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, a lot of different good works. So I had the pressure, but I also had the nurturing. And I think for myself, and then I had a father who paid for my education. I got an associate's degree in 8 years. Then he couldn't afford it anymore, but what I seen was a difference in my thinking. But then it begs the question, obviously at 16, what was the difference was I didn't have the skills to resolve conflict. At that time, the conflict was an environment that had my parents and the loved ones around me doing drugs and not caring for me. And that was a conflict. It was a conflict, and I didn't know how to respond to that. And so in prison, you continue to resolve conflict with aggression like you did in the streets. And finally, I found myself dissatisfied with who I was, coupled with the reality that I was who I was because of me. And so what that did was it empowered me to be able to change me. And so eventually I found myself at Jackson Cooper Street. That was my 16th prison. And it was a program that it was pulling in men of the prison yard that were influential, that had the skill set to facilitate, to teach, to mentor, pulled them into a program. And what it did was it created a space for me. It created a space for us to become better, to become humane, to not only learn the skills, but to act it out. And eventually, when I stopped trying to beat the door down, the door just opened. And I was called into the counselor's office one day as I was teaching 3 classrooms of 17 to 25-year-old at-risk prisoners. And she called me in and said that my good time was given back, and then I'd see the parole board in like 13 days if I didn't disagree. And so I saw the parole board without even a recommendation letter. And I was blessed with an opportunity to act out what I was already doing. So as I say to most, it's not philosophy, it's physics. That's how I got out. I was living as if I was free. Released January 22nd, 2014. I knew that I needed more skills. I knew, so I was already enrolled in FAFSA. I acted like I was free already, so I lied. So I was eligible at Wayne State, at U of M, at WC3. I was denied at U of M, and then I was denied at Wayne State social work because of my crime. And I was accepted at the School of Business at Wayne State University, and I graduated in 2016 with a BS in accounting. Serendipitously, I was pulled into a program for the first time. They were pulling from the School of Business. I did a research study that involved some successful juvenile lifers. And what we did was we measured some successful juvenile lifers who served significant years, and then we measured one who served a year as a youth in the Wayne County Jail, and we compared them. And what we found through thematic analysis was that there's a sense of resiliency. One thing that I found, and with that being said, a sense of resiliency under immense pressure, under immense weight. So you find juvenile lifers and lifers per se who have served long and indeterminate sentences, you find that they have been crushed by the weight load of their own transgressions. And what that's done is it's created an opportunity for them to be able to listen to what the Spirit is telling them. What that means that they have an opportunity to discover who they're supposed to be. It's like they land flat on their back, looking up at the world and saying, why am I here? Oh, it's because of me. It's a reality check. And with that, there's an inverse effect. The lower you can go, the higher you can go, right? So I sensed a calling. We were helping guys. We were teaching inside before I came home, and I wanted to do that out here. So by the grace and glory of God, I have two co-founders that were men inside with me, and we've been able to employ 10 transform men that we deploy into the community to help return men like ourselves, meet them at where they're at, expand their vision, and lead them and try to guide them to where they want to be. We're also a service provider in River Rouge School District, working with 50 high-risk juveniles, 8th graders, 6th through 8th, mainly 7th and 8th graders, a lot of females. We're teaching them how to resolve conflict amongst themselves, to be peer-to-peer mediators. We're going to create a mediation center there to where they can resolve their own conflicts. We focus on internal locus of control. With the contract and returning citizens, we have approximately 270 clients, approximately 150 to 160 actively engaged. Probably out of the 170, 160 engaged, probably full-time mentoring and guiding them, probably a good 60 or 70 of them that were walking along the path towards a getting off parole, but that's not the litmus test. It's towards becoming better citizens. So that's what we're doing right now. The way we look at it is this. I'm not about helping guys like me. That's not what I do. I'm about safeguarding the community. I'm committed to trying to prevent further murders at the hands of broken men and women. But I try to use women to do that. Further deaths and further harm at the hands of broken men that just don't have the skill set to resolve the conflict first that exists within themselves. Then invariably any external conflict that approaches them.